Hello, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be having a look at strike craft carriers and to see how effective they are in the 3.7 update, because Paradox have adjusted the combat computers for carriers and apparently make them more effective, actually engage at the range they're supposed to. So the strike craft should start to launch at longer ranges and close in on the enemy. And before we used to see strike craft, like this is our carrier fleet here. Strike craft used to fly around. Sometimes they go off over here in the system and have a little sightseeing tour prior to engaging the enemy fleet. And you know, it'd bug out, just swarm around in circles sometimes. And so yeah, so we'll see how strike craft perform in this version. And what we're testing specifically is I'm testing the ancient driller drones. So it's one of the new weapons we've got, a new type of strike craft. And the way it is different to other strike craft, it does do a bit more damage. It does 4 to 16 damage, cooldown of 2.3. And if we'll go to ship design, actually it might be easier to look at it there in a comparison. Cruiser early. Where's my... There we go, light carrier. Okay. So we have a look at the comparison between ancient driller drones. 4 to 16 damage. They do 6 to 17 damage. So they do a little bit more damage. 2.3 cooldown. Accuracy tracking the same. Range is both 10. Engagement range 125. Hull 12. So they've got less hull points, the driller drones. 10 instead of 12. Shield 25, shield 25, evasion 80, speed 700, yep, average damage 40, 34. So the advanced strike craft have 100% shield penetration and 50% armor penetration. So if they go straight for shields, they do damage to armor at a rate of 50% more, and then they're into the hull. Whereas the ancient driller drones do 100% armor penetration, so they don't do as much damage to shields, and then they do plus 25 damage to armor, to hull. So they're going to get through the armor really quickly, which is great because everyone likes to use armor these days because of the bonuses that armor give you over shields. And you can just see it here, like let's say you have level 5 armor, 1725 armor hit points, and we'll just put in, say we had standard level 5 shields, you get shield points 1,320 at 8.7 daily regen. Alright, so, but a lot of the weapons in the game are bypass weapons. They bypass shields. They go for shield penetration. They have lots of missiles, torpedoes, disruptors, focused arc emitters, cloud lightning, and yeah, so there's quite a lot of weapons that do that and go through it, but there's not so many weapons that have armor penetration. There's a few, but not many. So that's why people stack armor, because armor is just sturdier, has less overall weapons that can counter it, really. So I want to try out to see how effective 100% armor penetration is, plus 25% shield damage. And that minus 50% shield damage we can counter with having kinetic batteries, doing a plus 100% shield damage and trying to whittle down those shields to work in conjunction with our ancient driller drones. So we'll see how effective that's going to be. And we're going to test this against the missile meta, because the missile ships have been very powerful. So we'll see how this goes. Now we're also going to have the ancient nano missile cloud launchers. I'm just going to test this out, see how it goes, because you can have a look there. It only has a little bit of damage, has a very rapid fire rate, 0.85. Range is good at 100. 100% shield penetration, 100% armor penetration, and plus 25% hull damage. So that sort of works in conjunction with our ancient driller drones. It's going to go through the armor and shields, and it's going to hit the hull at plus 25%. Basically the same as this, except for the shields. And hopefully the kinetic artillery takes care of the shields. So these weapons will work in conjunction. This is I just put the ancient defensive web slinger in there just to, to try out the PD and see how effective that is at stopping the incoming missiles. But I will do videos on testing the PD out versus standard PD in future videos. Now we've also got the new medium ancient suspension field. So this gives you shield hit points It's only 315, so it's not that much, but it does give you 15% shield hardening and some 4.6 daily shield regen. And that's versus the large shield, which gives you a lot more shield hit points and some nearly twice as much daily shield regen, but no armor hardening, shield hardening. So this gives you 60% shield hardening. It does use 90 power. It does cost what do you call it? The ancient relics, or what do you want to call them? These, what do you call them? Yeah, ancient relics. So you got 60% shield hardening. Now I've thrown in a shield hardener here to give us up to 85% shield hardening. So that means our shields should take 85% of the damage, only allowing 15% to go through to the armor. And so the armor should hold for a while, and then it'll be into our hull. We've also included 2 advanced afterburners to give our fleet some speed and hopefully keep the distance. Now this is a carrier combat computer, you can see there, so hopefully we keep some decent range and use our longer range weapons and keep firing off our strike craft to engage. Everything else is just standard stuff. So that's going to be against our missile meta. For cruisers, which will be this, just to stay in whirlwind missiles, marauder missiles, afterburners, mostly armor, just a little bit of shields, artillery combat computers, and standard stuff there. So this is pretty much standard. Like, this is a later game technology, but this is standard of what you're probably going to see from mid to late game, depending on how advanced your technology is. And this is easily gettable if you're focused on a few core technologies, because you don't have to worry about all the other weapons. Don't worry about plasma, laser, and kinetic and all that other rubbish. You just have to do missile tech, and then you can focus on your defensive systems. You might even not have level 5 shields, might be level 3 or something, but not going to make a big difference. It's mostly the armor, afterburners, these systems. So let's see how this battle pans out. So we've got our carrier fleet here and missile fleet here. So you can see the difference in firepower. No leaders or anything, no edicts. See how we go. Let's see when the carrier engages. So the carrier has engaged at this range. So let's see. The strike craft are launching. You see that? Strike craft are launching. This fleet has not fired its missiles, so we're outside missile range and we're already launching our strike craft. The multiple waves of strike craft going in, so now kinetic batteries have opened up, but the missiles have just fired, so there we go, we're at about 120 range or less. That's the point defences, I think, firing, is it? Should be. No, we don't have any point defences in that fleet. Okay, I'm sure we don't have any point defences. Yeah, no, must be the firing from the strike craft. Yeah, strike craft are engaging. Whittling down the kinetic batteries, are whittling down the shields. See the point defences firing at the missiles here. See them whittling away at some of the missiles. 20. They've lost a cruiser. Shields and armor holding. You can see, look at the shields going down there. Look at the hull points. Let's just pause it there. Look at the hull points going down. That's because these strike craft are going through and doing heavy damage to the hull. Let's check the battle damage. I'm sure it'll show it. Yeah, ancient driller drones have done nearly 10,000 damage to the hull already, whereas the whirlwind missiles, the nano ancient missiles are doing good damage to the hull as well. So yeah, that's why they're getting through. Then we've got damage to armor, damage to shields. So you can see the kinetic batteries, they're whittling away those shields at 200% efficiency. That's why they're great. Good combination, I think. See how it goes. Still relatively even fight. Speed this up a little bit. You can see the striker whittling them down now, down to 16, down to 10k. So the battle has really flipped. Yeah, this is now heavily in our favour. We've crushed them. We've crushed the missile med there. That's a retreated fleet. Bang! It's over already. Wow, that was really quick. Although they didn't suffer huge amounts of ship losses, the battle was won quite quickly. And you can see their hull points. This retreated fleet is going to get absolutely wasted. They've got no shields. They've only got their armour. So you can see the little damage we've taken. So those missiles did kill 4 of our ships, but it didn't really do a lot of damage to the rest of the fleet. So that was very effective. Surprising, actually. So this design, later design, has absolutely wasted the missile meta. Ripped the pants off it. And that's, I think, a big deal because you're mitigating the incoming damage, the 85% of damage. It's just not getting through. You should be able to see the total damage still. I think it's probably reset, did it? Yeah, it did reset. So you can just see there how efficient these shields are mitigating the damage, shield hardeners, and these things are going through the armor and the hull and doing extra damage to the hull, while the kinetic batteries belted down the shields, and these provided some defenses as well. So not only are you mitigating the damage of the missiles that hit, we're intercepting the missiles, some of them, preventing them actually reaching it. So they were just doing insignificant amounts of damage, really, while we obliterated their fleet, absolutely ripped them. Because of the type of engagement it was, we could probably get rid of afterburners. We could probably add some other things in here because they sort of just sat there at range engaging each other. I've seen that in some other battles, so I might try and tweak that. And let's try, for argument's sake, because this is great if against someone that's stacking more shields, and this would probably be effective if people had 2 or 3 shields. Let's have a look at this design here. If people had 2 or 3 more shields in here, the artillery is probably going to be still effective. You'd probably lose a few more ships, but it's still going to be close. So, because these guys didn't approach, these ships didn't run away, so they didn't get to use their speed. And that's one of the advantages of countering the missile meta, longer range weapons, because they can't use their speed really, because you're not closing in on them, so they're not running away. So that's one of the good things. So let's, and the argument with this design, this is mostly armor, so why don't we give it a whirl with, let's try some type of anti-armor weapon there instead, and see how we go. I'll do that. Okay, so we've got our lasers in. I'll just sort of try lasers, see how effective that is. Nothing else has changed. I've even left the afterburners alone. I might try that in the next battle. We'll change that up. I just want to see how effective lasers is. So there's a good baseline. Nothing else has changed except the front large weapon. This fleet is exactly the same. No changes whatsoever. So let's see how this all pans out. Get rid of this rubbish.
One of our stations is beset by enemies.
There we go, engage.
Heretic fleet engaged.
There we go, engaging, strike craft launching. Now they're firing. There you go, the lasers. 20. Oh, we've lost a ship. Oh, they've lost a ship. Still got more firepower. See, we're taking more damage this time, by the look of it. Not getting through the shields as much. Oh, they're losing a lot of ships now. 15. They've lost a lot of firepower too. We've had some more retreated ships. So yeah, we're winning now. Yeah, well and truly. Let's just pause here before the battle ends. Yeah, so those ancient driller drones doing a lot of damage to the hull. Then you've got the whirlwind missiles. They're doing pretty good as well. Then you've got ancient nano missiles still getting through, doing good damage. Damage to armor. It's a large gamma laser, 25,000, 150% efficiency. That's not too bad. Whirlwind missiles are just getting good. There's a lot of them. That's why they're doing so much damage. Okay, so not too bad. Probably not as good as a kinetic in this battle. I think that's... Oh, it's nearly over. There we go. They retreated. We lost 5 ships that battle instead of 4. So who knows? That could just be an RNG thing in the battle. And they lost 9 ships this time. I think they only lost 2 actual killed ships. So far more deadly in terms of actual ships lost. So a lot bigger alloy advantage. So you can see laser or kinetic. It works better. It works either way, depending on what your enemy is using. So in this case, it was stacked with more armor. So armor weapons seem to work pretty good as well. And you could go try plasma. I'm not going to try out every single anti-armor weapon. You can see it works as well. So you can see this design is very strong. Now I'll quickly change up. I might add something else in here to try and give us a bit more advantage, because I don't think we're really using that. Let me set that up. All right, we've got our updated fleet, and all I could really find to really put on there, because I didn't want to stack any more shield hardening. I think we've got enough of that. So I just thought I'd put auxiliary fire control on, a bit of more chance to hit, and some regenerative hull tissue. I didn't want to put the nanite repair one on, because I think that's just too big of an advantage, and it's a bit harder to get that in the game, whereas everyone tends to get these. So let's just see if that makes any difference at all, increasing our chance to hit and giving us a bit more hull regen and armor regen. Maybe keep some ships alive. Or if it totally flips the coin and makes us die.
Heretic fleet
Engaging. Strike craft away. And the carrier fleet's about 1,000 alloys cheaper as well than the missile fleet, so it's easier to afford it. Why they got 21 ships each? That's a bit, must have messed it up. At least it's even. The battle seems to be going our way. See the hull damage, shields going down, armor. Yeah, they're losing a lot of firepower. A lot of ships are retreating. That's the only thing with strike craft. Ships tend to retreat. But at least we've got the lasers in there to do a lot of damage as well, which will help kill more ships. 17. It's closer than I thought, actually. So maybe having the that's a treated fleet. So maybe having the afterburners on might help with the evasion. Let's just have a look. Yeah, see, 2 afterburners adds 20% evasion, so it might be worthwhile just keeping the afterburners on. I didn't really notice that much of a difference, but I think we lost, what, 1 less ship, 2 less ships. A lot more ships retreated though, because the firepower went down, but we still killed 10 of their ships. 10, 11, I think it was. So we killed more ships that time. Yep, so you can play around the build. Overall, the build is very effective, the strike craft build. Now, I'll test this. Let's see. I'll test it against like an artillery type battleship, because in 3.6, artillery or artillery cruisers or artillery battleships were the counter to carrier battleships or cruiser carriers. So using artillery to counter them. Alright, so I'll test that out and see if that works. Okay, so for this fight we've got some artillery cruisers, double artillery, and double lasers for when you close a bit of range. Just a mix of shields and some armor. Does the most shields I could fit on due to power requirements. Double afterburners so we can try and stay in that medium range so we can engage with all of our weapons. Hopefully using line computer to close to that medium range give us an increased chance to hit and fire rate. Versus our unchanged carriers from last time. We're still using the shield hardening, so that's not going to benefit us much in this engagement. So we could be at a distinct disadvantage here, because in this type of engagement against artillery ships, if you know you're up against artillery, you'll be trying to stack your shields more, or maybe even stacking your armor. So it depends on what you're up against. But for a baseline thing, I wanted to check, to see how effective this build is overall. So that we will be missing our shield hardening will be of no benefit in this fight. So that's one of our major defensive things, and plus our point defenses are a little good. That's why artillery ships are good at countering carriers, because PD is no good. You can stack shields, well that's good, but you can stack armor, but they've still got laser weapons. So we'll see how this goes.
One of our stations is beset by enemies. Heretic fleet engaged.
See the shields getting hammered. Now they're into our armor. 1 ship down already. 2. We're struggling to get through. They go 1 ship down. 3. We've lost a lot of our firepower. So this is why artillery is a really good counter to carriers. It's that tic-tac-toe. There you go. carriers got obliterated by the artillery, which is what I expected. Using that combination. So if you're up against someone throwing artillery at you, you need to stack the armor. So what I'll do is I'll adjust the carrier ship design. If you were going to fight someone you knew had artillery or was using artillery on the ships, and obviously you're going to reduce your shields, you're probably going to stack more armor. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so we've optimized our fleet to counter artillery as much as we can. We've stacked our armor, just having one lot of shields. I've got rid of all the shield hardening because we don't need it. I've given 2 afterburners simply to give us 20% evasion. The speed's not really an issue. I've kept the regenerative armor on there just to give us a bit more armor regen, because that's one of the things which is going to protect us the most, our armor and hull. So a little bit there may help. Same sort of weapons. Carrier computer and an unchanged fleet here. Same design. I still expect this artillery design to beat the carrier because in all my testing of 3.6, artillery ships always countered carriers very effectively. So we'll see if that holds true with the only thing that's really different is these type of weapons here. And plus, we're using 2 slots here, which aren't effective against artillery ships. While they're all of this is effective against missile ships, but only 4 out of 6 slots is effective against artillery. So these are not effective at mitigating incoming damage. So the 2 wasted slots there, really. That's probably the difference. If you had 2 other types of weapons firing at artillery ships, we might win. Let's see.
One of our stations is beset by enemies. Heretic fleet engaged.
Oh, look at those shields go down. Boom, boom, boom. Armour seems to be holding better this game. Still lost a ship. Shields nearly down. We're losing ships now quite quickly. Just that artillery is just hammering us. They've lost some ships. Strike craft are starting to get through. Ooh, it's still pretty even. We're losing a few now. They're losing a few. They've nearly lost our armor. That's the problem. Yeah, we're losing now, but a lot more even than I thought it was going to be. That's for sure. Yeah. We just lost in the end. Our armor gave up. We've lost 10 ships. They've lost 6 so far. Lost 11. There we go. That's a retreated fleet. So you can see we held out a lot better then, but once again, artillery still win, and that's just that tic-tac-toe thing that carriers can counter missile ships, artillery counters carriers, and that's just the way it seems to work. So no real changes from 3.6 in terms of dealing with artillery ships. Much better at dealing with missile ships, I thought, with the weapons we've got because of those new type of shields that we had, which do 15% shield hardening. They've really helped. Okay, I want to do a couple quick tests against some torpedo cruisers. We'll see. We might throw in some cloak and just see if there's any advantage with cloaked on carriers. Cloaked torpedo ships going against carriers using Devastator torpedoes. So we'll try that out. All right. Actually, I better cloak this fleet first before we engage. Set up the cloak. Cloaking. Yeah, there we go. They're cloaking. Stop moving about. Okay. Now that they're cloaked, we'll set up the attack. Okay, that's better. So I just wanted to talk about something really quickly, and probably what you can gather already is it's really important to know what your enemy's fleet composition is, because if you can build your fleets to it, then you're going to be in a better position to win the war. And this is where cloaking comes into it. Not necessarily for the battle. Actually, I wanted to close, I'll adjust that a second. I wanted to do point blank range, actually. So this is where cloaking and the science ships come into it. Because if you've got an enemy here, you've got a bunch of science ships in there helping you to build intel on your enemy cloaked science ships. you're going to be able to see what type of fleet he's got and then be able to generate a counter to it, even if you're not going to use cloaked fleets in his territory to, raid his planets or blow up his trade network or intercept reinforcing fleets, things like that, reinforcing armies, and just be a real pain in the backside. Kill his station, which had a cloak detection network, and then you gain advantage in that pretty much whole sector because they don't build star bases everywhere, do they? You can't afford it. So that's what you've got to think about. Really plan your war and build that spy network, get the intel going in there first, so you go, right, he's using lots of torpedo-based weapons or strike craft, so I've got to stack my point defenses and maybe some shield hardening and things like that going in there, or more armor to counteract the torpedoes. Okay, I'll just actually set this a little bit. I don't want to attack each other yet. Get in really close. Set this up first. You stay there. Yep, good. Just want to test how a cloaked fleet go against a carrier fleet launching a point-blank volley. Okay, so this fleet is our cloaked fleet, Devastator torpedoes. It does stroke with shields, 50% armor damage, so not armor penetration, just armor damage. Whereas these guys do armor penetration and shield penetration. So you could mitigate some of the disruptor damage by having some armor hardening in there as well. Mostly armor here, cloak, a couple of afterburners, torpedo combat computers. Whereas this carrier fleet is relatively unchanged from our last one. Probably the only benefit I could have put on is really shield hardening's not worth it. Maybe some armor hardening I could have put in to negate the disruptors. That's if you knew your enemy had disruptors, but let's assume I don't know. I just want to test this out really to see how it goes against the opening Devastator torpedo barrage and what the carrier fleet does. Let's see how it pans out.
One of our stations is beset by enemies.
Boom. Torpedoes away. Disruptors firing. So it looks like they lost one ship. You can see the carriers are running, trying to get that separation now. So we only lost one carrier. Firepower is still relatively even. See, now you can see now, hang on, is that okay? So they are the carriers, yeah. So the carriers have separated, running, and they're bombarding the torpedo fleet now, which is what we've seen previously. Now these guys are afterburners. Can they close the range? And look, they're firing at the sun. Look at this. Strike craft are firing at the sun. So yeah, so the carriers have won this easily, like we've seen previously. So just once again, those short range weapons just get obliterated because they just don't chase after individual targets, keep going. So carriers just split up, had complete 360 positioning on them, and just obliterated them from all sides. All right, I'll test the long range torpedoes. So for this fight, what we've got is our I put it on the wrong side, didn't I? No, but there we go. Our Neutron launchers with missiles. We've also got cloak, we've got speed, we've got all armor, artillery combat computers. Because we're using cloak, we can approach the carrier fleet, engage at long range. We should get the first volley off before they launch their strike craft because they won't see us, hopefully. And for this, we've just got our same carrier fleet we've used previously.
One of our stations is beset by enemies. Heretic fleet engaged.
Just want to see, they did fire their torpedoes. The strike craft, the carrier fleet still engaged even though they had cloak on. Must be one of the bugs they've talked about. See, now the Neutron launchers are away. I think the damage, look at the carriers ripping into them. Strike craft. They've lost one more ship. Look at the fleet down there. They've lost, so many have retreated. They're not firing off enough. They haven't got enough ships to do damage now. It's all over. Quite a lot of cruisers destroyed too. That's a retreated fleet. Alright, so that wasn't really visited. Cloak didn't work on that occasion, so, and the carriers just obliterated us. So carriers are great against torpedoes as well, even if they've got cloaks, as we've just seen in the last 2 battles, close range or long range. Those strike craft are just fantastic. These what are they called? Ancient driller drones. They're really, really good. I really like them in all the testing I've done so far. So this is obviously mid to later game tech, so it's not early game tech. I do have some. I've been testing out some destroyer designs as well. So, but I'll leave that for another video. So I'll leave that here today for strike craft. So we've basically seen the tic-tac-toe. If someone's got lots of carriers and strike craft and using against you, artillery ships are really, really good. You've just seen they obliterated the carriers, no problem. So make sure you use those science ships with cloak. If you've got cloak, even if you're not going to use cloak fleets, use those science ships. Get out there, build your intel, find out what your enemy's using, so you can build the counter to your fleet. And it might just mean you swap some more armor in instead of shields, or you might put some shield hardening in just to boost that up. If your enemy's using a lot of penetration, bypass type weapons, so you've seen how effective it's been, particularly countering the missile meta. So I wanted to do this video because I wanted to show people, because people just sometimes they get so preoccupied. The missile meta is so strong. Yes, it is strong. It's not unbeatable though. You've seen here, strike craft obliterate it. And we're only using cruisers. We're not using battleships either. Battleships are the same. Battleships are very similar until you get X-Lot weapons. That sort of changes it a bit. But battleship carriers, and you don't really use so many battleship missile ships on them. But it's the same. It's the same result. Carrier battleships are utterly devastating. And same with artillery battleships. They counter the carrier battleship and they obliterate the carrier battleship. So you've got tic-tac-toe. And the carriers counter the torpedoes as well. So if someone's using lots of torpedoes to really hammer your fleets. And the same for frigates as well. The strike craft absolutely obliterate frigates. If you had 80 frigates there, the strike craft win. I've tested that thoroughly in 3.6. So just 20 cruisers versus 80 frigates. It's no contest. The only time the frigates may win is if they've got cloak and they're coming in really close, then they could win. But if you've got double afterburners on these guys, they're going to run and separate like we saw with the previous battle, and they just surround the enemy fleet. The frigates will be too slow and they'll just get obliterated. So they might kill 5 cruisers. That'll be about it, as we've seen in some other videos. Alright, I'll leave it here. If you like that video, hit the like button for me. It just helps me with the YouTube algorithm. And hit that subscribe button if you want to see some more videos. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.